Might be good. I mean, I could record too if you need me to. You need me to record also? No, all right. So I did a lot of interviews this week.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cinema Royale. I guess Travis didn't want to join.
I had to shut the door because I was hearing stuff outside the door.
That was just, it was funny timing because like as soon as I switched over to the main combo screen and the theme stopped, you got to walk away.
I was trying to hurry back. Whatever.
All good.
What's up,
So
man?
we're still in 2020. Nothing's much changed. Hopefully things will change
Oh,
in the next
well,
month.
no, well, hold on. Well, no,
Well, a
2020
big
just got
thing changed. Yeah.
infinitely worse over the weekend.
Yeah, I guess I kind of buried the lead on that one.
Hey, yeah, 2020 got infinitely worse over the weekend. And we're not going to sit here and talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We're not an overtly political show, but that was a really big loss,
Yeah.
especially the last couple of years where, she's really become such a pop culture figure beyond her status on the bench.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty big blow for a lot of reasons that we don't need to delve into. But it's just
Well, it's probably worth saying
sorry.
just because I think everybody should know from some source. Like, my wife is one of the smartest people I know, and I really didn't know the breadth of what RBG had done for women specifically. Everybody, relates her to like the pro-choice movement and things like that, but I ran through a list with my wife of the things that she accomplished for women since she's been in there. Things that she didn't even know weren't an option for her. The ability for a woman to sign a mortgage without her husband,
Yeah,
the woman, all these different things like that.
I think it's
That's where you're
important to
looking.
note. I think it's important for people to note that those things that she managed to get for women, she often uh, when she would create her cases, when she would do her cases in the Supreme Court, she usually framed them from the position of helping a male,
Mm,
because equality for one equals equality for both.
right.
So she would attack it from the perspective of males who are being shortchanged.
Hmm.
So that's how she did it, and it was a really brilliant way of doing it because, in a lot of those cases, women weren't even they didn't even want women to present cases in front of the Supreme Court. Like they would always want a man to do it. So if you're going to do stuff like that, you need to find an angle everyone can relate that everyone can relate to, specifically white men who don't want to see anything change.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
really
yeah, do
anybody,
it.
because that's one of the things, one of the smartest things about that. And now, people like we said, we won't get into it much, but I always laugh whenever people are arguing their point with somebody that's on the opposite side of the point, and they argue it using all of their own points. And like, that's not going to work against somebody who doesn't believe what you believe, whether it's on the basis of
Right,
religion or politics or whatever. You have to argue on common ground, otherwise you'll never make any progress. But
right.
so rest in peace to
Anyway,
her.
yeah.
Hopefully,
If you want to go watch the documentary RBG, which is fantastic,
what was
or go
that, two
watch
years ago, 3 years
go
ago
watch
when it came out?
something like that. Yeah, or go watch the movie on the basis of sex with Felicity Jones as RBG.
Yeah.
Uh, go watch those. That'd be a good way to get caught up on
By the way, that's not the erotic movie I thought it was going to be. It's not.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Apparently,
So
sex can differ in
we
gender as well.
yeah. So we are the Punch Drunk Critics. I'm Travis Thompson. And it's John Nolan. I always forget to say that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You can find us every day at punchdrunkcritics.com. And this was a busy week, man.
Yeah.
And I didn't want it to be, but it was. There were a lot of reviews out. A couple things from Sundance that finally came out this week. The Nest from Sean Durkin,
Hmm.
the guy who did Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene 10 years ago. I know. Yeah,
That
I
was
know,
10
right?
years ago.
Well,
Wow.
it's 8 or 9, but it's close to 10. It's close enough.
It's a
But the
movie that
fact
really
remains,
gave us Elizabeth Olsen.
that was the movie that gave us Elizabeth Olsen. Yep. So it was his first film since then, actually. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, I know he took a time off. This was an interesting Sundance because we had two people who basically went away after they had like a breakout feature 10 years ago. There's
Hmm.
Sean Durkin who came back with The Nest, and Brandon Cronenberg who came back with Possessor, which comes out
Hmm.
pretty soon. It's an amazing film. And Brandon Cronenberg, he broke out with Antiviral almost 10 years ago.
Wow, yeah.
Of course, the son of David Cronenberg. So yeah, so a couple of directors who just went away basically after having one movie and decided to come back all at once. It was really weird. But so yeah, so the Nest came out. Big movie this week was Antebellum with Janelle Monáe. This one has been booted around the schedule over and over and over again because of the coronavirus. And it finally came out this week on VOD. Um, and so yeah, and that one's a movie that has Jordan Peele as a producer, so everybody was comparing it to Get Out, um,
Right.
which I don't think is a fair comparison because they're not.
I think a lot of people were expecting, and not altogether unrationally, it to be something along the lines of Get Out or Lovecraft Country, which I don't know if you got a chance to see Lovecraft Country yet. Have you been watching that?
I just got caught up on all the episodes last night.
Oh, you did. So you saw the scene that never mind. So yeah, the Lovecraft Country, even Watchmen to an effect. And people were my understanding is that there was a lot of expectation for it to be along those lines. And I think in
Yeah,
some ways, I think
I guess. I think, like I said, I think a lot of people were expecting Get Out. But it's a movie that is. I think it's if it has to be compared to either one of them, it's
mhm,
probably more Lovecraft Country. But I
yeah,
don't. I don't even know if that even really fits. Yeah, basically, Monet plays a successful author and kind of a talking head, a pundit.
mhm,
Um, and at least in one storyline, she plays that.
mhm,
In the other storyline, she's a slave. And this movie, I think if this movie is going to be recognized for anything, it's the sheer brutality of those of the historical aspects
yeah.
of the
There's no
movie.
punches pulled.
No, 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 it doesn't. It's unflinching, and I appreciate that. If you're going to show this stuff, and Hollywood gets off on showing the brutality of slavery for whatever reason, I think they have this idea that brutality equals poignancy. I'm not so necessarily sure that's true, but
Mhm.
I think that's the rationale. Um, but
That
that's
brings up
the
a
is
good point, though, and that's something I think needs to be explored is where is that line between shock value and being and telling the true story, like at the end of or at the beginning rather of 12 Years a Slave, extremely shocking opening for a lot of people.
yeah,
Um,
and so is
that
this.
yeah yeah I mean, and that I would put that on the side of being faithful to history or showing warts and all, showing the real story. But you do get a lot of stuff, especially in this realm of filmmaking, with is that ends up being kind of you could. It's hard to tell where the line is, but there's a shock value line versus a truth and storytelling line.
Right. Yeah. Um, so yeah, so it's basically told by from two different angles, two different storylines, and of course there comes a
Right.
point where these storylines converge, and I won't give that away because it's a Shyamalan esque twist
Yeah.
involved, which I mean to me wasn't really much of a twist, if I'm honest. But if I have to, but I think my biggest gripe with the film is that I think one half works better than the other, and actually does what the other one intends to far better than it does. And
Right.
it's the historical aspect of the film, which uh, I think with the directors whose names I don't remember, they did some other stuff before this.
It was
Uh,
Bush and Renz, Christopher Renz and Gerard Bush.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Um, the movie is sort of exploring uh, kind of the little ways that we are affected by racism, like on a daily basis.
Hmm.
Like the subtle shade that we get, the disrespects, the little tiny things that kind of build up and add up. And you see that a lot in the contemporary aspect of it, where Monet's character is kind of she's out at a hotel and the service is crappy for her, but not necessarily for her white friend.
Right.
And there's just all these little things that happen over the course of the day. But I feel like the historical aspect when she, when they're in the past and she's done with the as a slave
Hmm.
shows that in a far far greater respect. The way that we are mistreated,
Hmm.
where we are mistreated by white people. I think it does a better job. I don't think you even need the contemporary aspect all that much. which
You
I
think
found
it's
annoying, and part of that is because of Gabrielle Sidibe's character, who I could not stand at all. She's just
speaking of people that disappeared for a long time.
she hasn't disappeared. She acts all the time.
I mean, I know she was an American Horror Story, but that was like 3 or 4 years ago.
She's
What
she's on
it
Empire. She makes movies all the time too. She still makes a lot of movies.
disappeared from my viewpoint? Apparently,
Well,
I
that's
need to be
that's
watching
your
it.
fault, film critic man. You're
her
supposed to be
last
paying
her last
attention.
movie was The Brothers Grimsby. Come on, she's still making movies all the time.
What do you mean that was her
Her last
last
movie
movie?
was in 2016. Her last credit was 2016, The Brothers
I know
Grimsby.
that's not. I know that's not true because we have a review of a movie she was in just like earlier this year, or maybe it was last year.
I think maybe you just misattributed somebody. I think I'm
Nope,
right.
nope,
I mean,
not at
obviously,
all.
history will prove I'm always right. So.
Now you got me looking. Now you got me looking her up. Now you got me looking up her credits.
Yeah, now I'm going to be proven as I can't even look up someone IMDb correct.
Right,
Um,
last year, Come As You Are. I knew I had just seen her in a movie.
let
2019.
me check this. Let me check your.
What? 2019. We have that review up. I know. I watched it.
Yeah, but before that, it was the Brothers Grimsby, and that
Right.
film was made in Yugoslavia, and we don't count those movies.
Right. But the only reason she only did one movie is because she was doing TV. Look at all the TV
Yeah,
she
I
did.
didn't. If I known she did 5 years in Empire, I would have not said that. But
Did a whole
obviously,
bunch. She did a whole movie.
Empire is
She did
not on my
5 Years in
watch
the
list.
Empire and Difficult People and American Horror Story and Drunk History and BoJack Horseman. She did 2 seasons of American Horror Story.
She
So
did.
no wonder she
Oh
only
yeah,
did.
she did. Yeah.
So no wonder she only did like one movie for a few years because she went to TV for a few years.
Let's just agree she could work a bit
Oh, I'll
harder.
be sure to pass that along to her people.
Appreciate it. No, but I think what you're saying is right, and you bring up an interesting point about nailing the different aspects contemporary and in the past. My feeling watching that was just that the nailing the racism in the past is much easier. Might not be the word I want to use, but it's blatant. Nailing the subtlety and the sometimes subtle, I should say, ways that it happens these days isn't as easy. But I found myself thinking of two different movies when I was watching this, or one movie and one piece of an anthology, and that is the Twilight Zone movie and Cloud Atlas. I just got a
this
feeling.
this felt like an episode of Black Mirror or Twilight Zone,
Yeah,
and
yeah. I mean that's
it probably should have been.
right.
It probably should have been that. It probably should. I mean, shit. Jordan Peele exec produced it. He probably should have put it on the Twilight Zone. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know why. It didn't feel like it had to be a movie. And I think
right.
that's probably my biggest gripe with it was I was sitting there watching. I was like, yeah. I mean, it's not really doing much. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
The slavery scenes are really hard to watch.
Hmm.
Um, that opening scene is amazing though. It's operatic. The score kind of swells. As they're kind of panning all the way through this plantation,
Yeah.
ending on a horrific act of violence. It's really a great shot that sets up this movie that then doesn't really follow through on that at all. At least not to me, it doesn't.
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, I that's pretty much where I sit with it. Is it was like a longer, really good episode of. It was a good episode of Black Mirror or Twilight Zone, but it was just a longer version of that. I mean, I really enjoyed Janelle Monáe. I'd like to see her in more.
she's great. I love her. She's great.
But yeah, so middle of the road, I'd say.
Yeah, it's getting crapped on. You know, I don't think it's just
What is it? What has its Rotten Tomatoes come out, or it's how are they reporting
no,
earnings these days for VOD? Are we getting like an earnings report on Monday
no,
or
not. I
something?
mean, not really. I mean, you get some sometimes,
Hmm.
but not really. Not consistent box office reports.
Surprised they haven't
Unless
changed that.
something does like extremely well, you'll get like the studio will put out a number
Right.
for it, right? So
Yeah.
this whole box office thing has become a real issue over the last couple of weeks because Warner Brothers has been withholding Tenet's box office numbers until Sundays, which usually those things are tracked daily,
Right.
um, and they've been withholding that, and probably because the daily numbers haven't been good. I mean, the movie hasn't done well domestically at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's done pretty well overseas, just fine. I mean, it's over 200 million bucks overseas and all that. So I mean, it's doing
Which
okay. But when a
it's
movie
just
costs that much, it's not. It's a big deal. It really needs the American box office. But it's not. It's done. I don't know what the numbers are after today, but as of last week, it was like 29 million or something like that, which is not great at all.
which
So
kind of blows my mind because the whole thing with this, one thing has been proven very clear is that we're not taking this, a lot of this country is not taking this seriously. Um,
what?
so you'd think that
Where'd
would,
they get that from?
right? You'd think that would play into more people going to the theater. So if Tenet's doing well overseas, where admittedly they're doing much better with COVID, but still you'd think they'd be cautious still. Doing much better overseas, you'd think it'd be doing better in America because we obviously think we're impervious to it.
Okay, well let's. All right, well there's a couple factors here.
Mm-hmm.
Factor number one is it's not it can't play in the two biggest markets in the country, which is LA and New York.
Yeah.
They're not fully open yet. There are some small theaters that are opening in those places, but they're not fully open. As of last week, it was like 62% of the country that had their theaters open.
Yeah.
So, but if you're missing New York and LA, the two biggest markets, that's a huge dent.
You trying to tell
Um,
me that the Albuquerque and Sheboygan markets don't make up for those two?
no, they
That's
don't.
that's just
Uh,
disappointing.
so so that's a big problem that they probably should have. I mean, I would have held Tenet until everything was open personally,
I
but
don't. Yeah,
whatever. They didn't do that, and now we see what's going on. So,
yeah. Whether it
um,
was hubris or I don't know what else could have been, but there just seems it
I
got it
think
got marked as the canary in the mine a long time ago, and
yeah,
they just never pushed back against that. I don't understand
yeah,
why.
because there was no way. There was nothing else. Look, no movie wanted to be first
Right.
other than Tenet, and I think Christopher Nolan was the one who largely pushed for being first in that regard. I think it's mostly because of him. I think it's solely up to Warner Brothers. They
Hmm.
would have probably held on to it a little bit because we've seen them push everything else. Like they
Yeah.
pushed everything else back, and they even pushed Tenet back a little bit. But it was always sort of ahead. It was kind of slopping around with Mulan for a while,
Right.
but Tenet was always going to be the first or like number two. It was always going to be there.
Yeah.
The other factor is um, yeah, we think because our leader doesn't take it seriously, and his followers don't take it seriously, or at least they act like they don't.
Hmm.
They act like they don't. But I think in private, when it comes to going to like a movie, they're not going to do it. Right? But
Yeah.
if it comes to going to a rally filled with people who feel just like them, yeah, they'll do
Well, see,
it.
I wish it was a like a political leaning thing, but the number of people I've seen everybody from the thing that grossed me out the most, and we're getting off on something totally different here, is like the number of times I've gone to a pharmacy and seen the pharmacist rolling like this with their nose sticking out
Oh
as a
yeah,
medical professional.
yeah,
It's not just the
yeah.
extreme right. This whole country needs to get their shit together and put the mask
Well,
on your whole damn face. Anyway,
yeah, but
um,
yeah, masks are a problem. But I mean, well, masks aren't a problem, but
no,
people not wearing them and wearing them incorrectly is a problem.
right.
Um,
But for those people that stayed home, there
but
was a movie to watch on
but
Netflix.
there's but there's also the fact that before we move on, there's
Mm.
also um, and now I lost my train of thought. So.
Sorry, my segue killed you. So yeah, this for those staying
No, it's
home,
okay, man. It's all right.
we
It is
had the Devil All the Time, Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson,
greatest cast
um,
of the year
greatest cast of the year: Riley
by
Keough,
far.
Bill Skarsgård, Jason Clarke, Sebastian Stan, Haley Bennett. I mean, that is.
Mia
I mean,
Wasikowska.
it's not just an awesome cast. It's a who's who of the younger generation of Hollywood right now with Sebastian Stan and obviously Jason Clarke, but Sebastian Stan being the older statesman of the A-listers in that group. I mean, this is
Is
this is a
Sebastian
cast.
Stan an A-lister?
No, but he's a Marvel star, so he automatically gets a pass, and he
Yeah.
will be.
I think this is a cast of it's a cast of B plus players, with the exception of Pattinson.
Let's say popularity A-list. I think you put any of these people on a poster, you're going to get more people in the seats because of it. They might not be critically acclaimed A-listers, but
That's what these people are. These are acclaimed actors, but they're not
mm,
all A-plus actors.
uh,
Pattinson is
okay,
an A-plus actor right now.
right,
Right now he is.
yeah,
A few years ago we wouldn't be able to say that, but right now he is. Tom Holland's a B-plus player.
yeah.
Sebastian Stan is a B player. Mia
Apparently, you
Wa-
didn't see
Mia
the oh, what was it called? Shit, I forgot what it's called. It was the one where he was a bunch of teenage warlocks in like a prep school. That movie he was in. Remember that
I
all those
don't
years ago?
I don't.
I'm gonna have to look that up
I
now.
remember him in the Bronze where he played the gymnast. But yeah, let's see what else. Mia Wasikowska, she's a B plus player.
Hmm.
You know, Haley Bennett is a fantastic actress. She's a B player. It's a fantastic, it's a great cast all around. It doesn't matter.
Hmm.
This is an incredible lineup of stars. Um,
The Covenant.
yeah.
That was it.
Oh, okay, yeah, I don't remember it. I don't remember it. Um, I wanted to like this a hell of a lot more than I did.
Uh-huh.
It is a violent Southern Gothic sort of a crime movie.
Hmm.
Holland as a kid from Knockemstiff, Ohio. I love that name.
Knock 'em stiff.
Fucking great name. And it's a real place too.
Hmm.
Um, that's where the author is from. The author who's actually the narrator of the movie too. Um, Daniel Ray Pollock, I think his name is. Um,
Yeah.
he's a guy who grows up. He's a kid who grows up in a very violent home. Oh, his father was played by Bill Skarsgård. Um,
Hmm.
in a violent home. His father is extremely violent. Mom dies at an early age, so he grows up with this sort of with a chip on his shoulder and a violent streak. But he's also protective of the people he cares about. You
Right.
know, and he lives in this place where there's just heels everywhere. Robert Pattinson's corrupt preacher pastor.
Hmm.
You got a pair of serial killers played by Clark and Riley Keough,
Hmm.
who is another B plus actress, fantastic actress. And they get off on setting young men up to sleep with her, and then they kill
Right.
them.
Which was just like not too dissimilar from the oh god, what was it? It's in the Billy Joel song. We didn't start a fire. Starkweather. The Starkweather murders in the 50s. I mean, it's very similar to that. Guy and a girl. She sets up guys. He kills them.
Mm, I'm sure that's been on an episode of Killer Couples at some point
Mm.
on Oxygen. Um, but and so basically he's surrounded by all these really bad people, and he's a bad person too. There are no good people in this movie really, and the ones who are good tend to be taken advantage of by the really bad people.
Right.
Um, like Tom Holland's, I guess sort of a half sister, stepsister, adopted sister, played by Eliza Scanlon from Little Women. So up and down the
Mm.
roster, this cast is fantastic. Um, but it's a movie about sort of the way faith can be twisted and corrupted and used against people. It's about a legacy of violence. It kind of reminds me of Place Beyond the Pines in that way.
Yeah, I can
Um,
see that.
but the tone is really weird, and I was never really quite able to get a handle on it. Yeah, it's really grim. It's very dark, but it's also something just feels sort of off about it. Maybe it's kind of the hypersexualized nature of a lot of the violence in the movie and the treatment of women in it. And I was talking with our friend Rocky about it, and the movie it both reminded us both of was The Paperboy, um, the Lee Daniels from years ago, which I don't know if you remember that or not. It was
I do vague. I know. I couldn't point out things about it, but I vaguely remember
a
it. Yeah.
fucking awful movie, but it had sort of that same vibe. And this is a lot more grim than that was.
Hmm.
But this one never clicked with me. I think the thing that bothered me most about it was just kind of how dull it was. Like I was really not, I couldn't really connect with it at all, and I didn't like Holland's character. I don't know if you're even supposed to really like him, but you're supposed to at least give a shit about his eventual path of vengeance, and I really didn't.
Right.
The only character who seemed like he was alive to me was Pattinson's, and it
Hmm.
felt like Pattinson had kind of walked in for another movie. which is great because Pattinson is really good at that. Pattinson is really good at playing supporting roles that just kind of come in halfway through, and he just fucking takes it from everybody. And it's
Right.
not the first time he's done it. He does it here, and he was the only one who was interesting to me in the least. Like I wasn't interested in the serial killer couple either. Their storyline that just kind
Hmm.
of felt stagnant to me. None of this stuff really worked other than Pattinson, and he's one of the heels, and he's one of those guys who's on Holland's shit list.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, it
the movie
is.
didn't work for me like it should have.
And it won't work for most people, I think, because it's missing the one thing you need to have. You can have a movie that's as dark and
No,
as grim
there's
as
no
you can.
redemption. There's no redemptive arc.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can have the most grim, dark movie in the history of the world, and it can be relatable. It can be something people will lock onto as long as there's some semblance of hope, of light, of something other than just darkness everywhere. When you just have darkness everywhere, it doesn't. There's no effect
it
to it.
was like a Cormac McCarthy story.
Yeah, yeah,
You
and
know,
I mean, I know what Tom Holland was going for. I mean, he's been Spider-Man, he's been Mr. Boy Scout on the front page. So he wants, and this is a typical look what else I can do type movie. Robert Pattinson, I mean, he just keeps coming out with left hooks and right hooks, saying I'm not Edward Cullen. I mean, look at all the stuff I can do, and he's been doing that for since the last Twilight movie came out, really. So if anybody still compares him to that, which of course I just did, they've lost their mind because the guy is
he's a
so.
great. He's a great actor. He's a great
I
actor.
can't think of many people in his age range that are a more talented actor than he is, and he just keeps showing that over and over again. And
Yeah,
Holland does fine. I think he shows that he can do other things. That he's not just Peter Parker, but um,
a lot of really really dubious Southern accents in this movie too.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
half this cast is from England, so I mean they're all out here doing.
I yeah.
One of the funny things I read about it was somebody had commented was that it's a bunch of English actors trying out for a season of True Blood, and
Yeah,
it's kind of what it felt like.
yeah. I wouldn't even thought about that, but yeah, that's pretty on point actually. Oh,
So
but
yeah,
hey,
so
it's
this
free.
is the point.
It's
It's
free,
free.
but it's over 2 hours long, so not
It's a
too
pretty
much
long
over
movie.
2 hours.
It's almost two and a half. It's almost 2.5 hours
Was
on
it?
just
I
about.
felt like 210 or so, but regardless, it's a pretty big time commitment for being dark and dreary and depressing.
Yeah,
Um,
you need to have been if you weren't hooked by the trailers, you're not
mhm,
going to watch this, despite the
no,
cast. You're
and
probably not. You're not, or at least you're
unfortunately,
not going to make it. You're not going to make it all the way through. I don't think.
no, and unfortunately, there's not a bright and shiny film that we'll be reviewing today. And you got Antebellum, that's about racism. You have The Devil All the Time, which is about just a fucked up county, let's call it. And then you have The Secrets We Keep about um,
You're right. This is a really grim week.
yeah, and The Secrets We Keep, I was really excited about for one reason, and it's always, I mean, obviously in 2020, and say in the
Nomi Rapace.
recent 2020s, recent
That's
2000s, I should say,
that's why you were
it
excited.
it's yeah, not so much, but it's come to
I like
light to a
her.
lot of people that the greatest generation time period, the 1950s, which is always you know the American dream personified, wasn't that way for everyone. But and I think people are starting to wake up to that a little bit. But
Which is
still,
why it's always funny we keep bringing it back to politics, but
mhm,
it's always funny when you hear the Make America Great Again, which is really about taking us backwards to that
yeah.
time period, the 1950s, where because everybody certain people imagine it as if it was fucking Father Knows Best, and
Well,
it really wasn't. For most people, it wasn't. Like you remember that movie Far From Heaven with Julianne Moore and Dennis Haysbert, which
yeah.
really kind of I think for a lot of people that kind of includes you into like, hey, this shit was really like it seemed idyllic on the outside, but it was really shitty for housewives, like for white housewives. It's shitty for black people, or a
If you
movie
didn't
like
look like me, it sucked for you, basically.
right, a movie like Carol, which will tell you that how fucked up it was for same
L.A.
sex.
Confidential. I mean, LA Confidential does one of the best, showcases of what it was like for black men in the 50s.
Yeah,
They
so
basically just say, we don't have any to pin this on. Let's go find some guys and
it's
pin it on them.
always right. It's always white men who think the 1950s were amazing
Right.
because they were fucking uh, they were Hugh Beaumont
Right.
in the 1950s,
But
you
here's the
know.
thing,
So they
even
they
for
had
us,
the wife who had the pot roast on the table when they came in from work.
right? Hello, honey, I'm home. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way they imagined it was, and maybe it was for like for them. For
No,
everybody
but see,
else, it
that's
was.
why I like this movie. That's why I was excited for this movie. It wasn't even like that for them. I don't know who made this up. They were all hyper traumatized alcoholics from World War II. I mean, you saw some of the most, excuse my language, fucked up stuff anybody could have ever seen. People coming back off those boats from World War II. There's no way any psychologist will ever tell you that it is humanly possible for somebody to come from that, what they saw in Germany and in the Pacific, and come home to America and live like Wally and the Beef. You
Right.
don't. I mean, you think PTSD is bad coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm not saying it's not by any
TV,
means, but
but TV back then is the same way as TV back now. TV back then was designed to paint a portrait, to paint an
right.
image.
Yeah.
So you put that out there on TV, and I mean, look, there were like two TV channels back then, so if
Yeah,
you
you
were
didn't have much
watching
options.
that, right, that's the idea that you got was that this is the way the country is supposed to be, and this is the way people are. But
Right.
that's not the way it really was. It's not the way
For
it was.
sure.
And then the secrets we keep, we see that Nomi Rapaz's character is a Romanian who survived the Holocaust,
Hmm.
and she's trying to move on with the domestic life with her husband, who's Chris Messina, who is back playing another mediocre white male husband after a psychotic diversion in Birds of Prey. He's
Yeah.
back to doing what he does best, playing a mediocre husband guy.
I think that was
Um,
on the call sheet. Mediocre white husband, calling the mediocre white husband.
that's what he played for years. Like that's all
Yeah.
he ever did was play like the mediocre guy, the guy who you're like he's a really good guy, but then like the guy with the edge would come in and take her from him.
Uh huh.
Like that's like he's always that guy, the guy who always got the you're a really sweet guy and I love you to death
But I'm not in love with you guy.
kind of
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. I'm not. I love you, but I'm not in love with you guy. Yeah.
Yeah, right. The left at the altar conversation sort of thing.
Right.
He was that guy, and he's
Hmm.
kind of back at this a little bit. Although he does get his moment in this
Hmm.
movie too. But she's trying to move on with him, and she's trying to get past the trauma.
Hmm.
And then she sees who she thinks is the guy who tortured her, raped her, and killed her sister.
Hmm.
Um, he's played by Joel Kinnaman, and she thinks he's him. So she assaults him and kidnaps him and holds him captive for the entire movie,
Hmm.
basically. Basically the film is about it's about a lot of things. It's about the secrets we hold from the people we're closest to, how trauma can affect a stable relationship.
Hmm.
It's about the reliability of memory. It's about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
A lot of different things are going on in this movie, which is I think is the thing I like most about it, is that it is approaching a lot of different subjects. Um, and I really like the interaction between Rapace and Kinnaman's character. I think they're just great together. Period. They were like the one good thing that was really good about the movie Child 44, which is a horrible movie. Um,
Oh. That the Russian.
yeah,
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 I
I'll
forgot
never
about that
forget that
movie.
experience. I paid to see that because they didn't
Mm.
screen it, and
Mm.
I paid to see it really late, like 12 o'clock at night. I
That's
paid
the
to see it,
worst.
and I was so goddamn bored. But
Uh.
anyway, and that movie had the cast of hell too. It was like Tom Hardy,
Yeah.
Noomi Ross, Joel Kinnaman, Gary Oldman, Matthias Schoenaerts. So I was like, damn, this movie can't go wrong. It's so boring.
It went
But
well.
anyway, they're great together. And I talked to them both, by the way. So you should go to punchdrunkcritics.com and check out my interview with Rapace and Kinnaman.
Yeah.
Um, but I love their interactions, and I liked her interactions with his character's wife, played by Amy Siemens,
Mm.
um, where Rapace's character is showing even more deceptions, keeping more secrets from another person who is struggling just like she is, and it's got a lot of layers to this movie.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not a great film. I don't think ultimately that it does a whole lot that's new,
Mm.
but I think those things about it, the things that it approaches, the themes it has, are what really work for it. And Rapace, who does revenge movies better than Nomi Rapace?
Yeah,
I don't think anybody does.
you see Mila Jovovich and Kate Beckinsale taking that female action hero thing. In a
But
perfect world, it
she's the
would
girl. She's the original girl with the dragon tattoo.
right.
When it comes to women seeking vengeance against evil men, the first person you think of is Nomi Rabas.
Right, and she should be the one that's in all those. I mean, and Joel Kinnaman, I did, I'm always left and right way. I like the guy. I really like seeing him in his name in the credits. I like when he's in
RoboCop.
movies. Yeah, but I don't always like his performances. I don't know what it is, and I that marks the second time that we've talked to him for our site because I talked to him for All Mankind last year. He and Chantel Van Santine. So, but I see in him here what he's missing in the others, and it's like he does seem sometimes like he's obviously doing things for a paycheck. Rick Flag doesn't seem like there's a lot of passion in that role for him, maybe. But in
I thought he
something
was
like
good as Rick Flag.
he was
I
good,
liked
but
him
there
as Rick.
wasn't any. He's always good. He was good as RoboCop too. It's just when he doesn't have a passion for it, he kind of like lowers down the speed a little bit, I guess, and it doesn't work as well. But um, I I thought this was really cool. It didn't really go the way I was expecting it to,
No,
if I'm being honest. But it wasn't a complete disappointment for me. I got to see what I wanted to see in that that post World War II world and the kind of screwed up ways things can go. So
yeah,
and they were both excellent in their
yeah. Definitely check
roles.
out my interview. It was a lot of fun with those two. And talked about how he basically spends the the entire shoot at her mercy,
Right.
which is pretty funny. So that was a fun one.
Yeah.
I also interviewed John Morrison this week.
Mm.
Did you look at that interview that I did with him?
I didn't know. I must admit I was on the road for like 2 days this week, Thursday
John
and Friday.
Morrison, the John Morrison, the WWE superstar, is in a short film called "The Speed of Time." If you go look at my post with the interview, and I
Uh
want you
huh.
to look at it just so you can look at the video to make sure it doesn't look like shit.
All right.
Look at it anyway, because it was an audio interview, but I added images to it the way you used to back in the day.
All right.
Um, but I also included the short film. The short film is in there too.
Oh, nice.
And it's like 12 minutes long, and it's fucking great. It was the most fun thing I watched this week.
What is it about? I don't
It
think
is
I've ever seen a
it is
short film that I
a
liked.
it is a sci-fi action comedy. Kind of reminds me of the Days of Future Past storyline. So
Okay.
Hennigan, his name is John Hennigan, but his name in wrestling is John Morrison.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he plays a guy named Johnny Killfire, and he comes back. I know, right? He comes back from the future. He goes back into the past to meet his former self
Mm-hmm.
to warn him about this app he's going to create. It's a pizza app, and in the future it goes crazy and it starts delivering pizzas to the past before they were ever ordered. It disrupts the entire fabric of time. It's so stupid.
Okay,
And
so I'm.
yeah, so
Yeah.
there are these time borgs that are traveling back in time to like I don't know to cause havoc or something. It's really stupid.
I
But
mean, I'm sold just on your title. So if you guys go to punchdrunkcritics.com right now and search John Morrison, it'll be the first option that comes up. The Speed of Time interview, WWE superstar John Hennigan on the blistering fun sci-fi film Flip Pile Driving Aliens. That's where I'm sold, and more. That
the
looks
movie begins,
awesome.
and I talked about this in the interview. The movie begins with him doing a Canadian destroyer, which is a
Mm,
pile driver.
right.
And I was like, you had to have set that up. Like you had to have requested that.
Oh yeah. That
and
doesn't just
he, and
happen.
he,
Yeah.
he talked about he did most of the fight choreography in it and all that kind of stuff too.
Wow.
So it is a really fun interview, and it's 30 minutes. Like I didn't expect to go 30 minutes with the guy. We were just kind of just rolling and having fun.
Isn't there
Uh,
nothing? There's nothing better than that. When you're
yeah,
when you're talking to somebody that you wanted to talk to, and you don't have a publicist popping in every 5 minutes saying one more question, one more question.
yeah,
Uh,
it was really great. Really
yeah.
great, fun stuff. Check that out. It's a fun movie. It's on Dust.
Hmm.
That whatever that service is, that service. But I have the video up on the interview link, so
Nice.
definitely watch it.
Lots of Marvel news this week. I know we got one bit of news. We have about 15 minutes left in the show, and there's one bit of news I want to leave till the end that just came out today. If you guys have been following PunchDrunkCritics.com, you'll see it's the latest story on the site. But the Avengers game has come out. People are playing that. Where people are talking about Black Widow being moved around, and then finally we got some actual real news for the next phase, next wave of superheroes from Marvel, and that's who She-Hulk's going to be. And I can't pronounce her name correctly, so I'm gonna let you do it, Travis.
Ooh, Tatiana Maslany.
I can't say it. I don't know why. It's
Tatiana
the second
Maslany.
T.
She's She-Hulk.
I can't
Is
do
that
it.
is that the top story for you?
Well, no, that's just the first one I'm going to.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, man, is it that far behind?
No, no,
Like,
no, 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 no.
not updating.
It,
Okay.
the last thing you texted me about
I was
before the
scared for
show
a second
started.
there. Okay, yeah. Now Tatiana Maslany is going to play She-Hulk in the upcoming Disney Plus series,
Right.
which I'm really excited about. You might remember it was Alison Brie who has been rumored for that role for pretty much most of the year. Pretty much most of the year.
Mm.
She was getting asked about it a lot too, and she was kind of always brushing it aside. So I think we all kind of expected it would be Alison Brie, who would have been great for the role too. But I'm excited to see Maslany in the role.
Yeah,
See
I'm
what she
way better
does.
with this
Yeah, I
than
think
I am with
I
Brie.
like her a lot, so I'm curious to see what she does, and I want to see her humor. Now, I've
Hmm.
never watched Orphan Black, so I don't have that kind of reference.
I was literally
Um,
just going to ask if you had seen that because it's one of
I've
those
never watched it.
shows I
It's on my
constantly
list
hear
of things
about.
to watch. It's
Yeah.
really high on my list of things I want to watch in
Hmm.
full. I'm not sure where it's available though. I don't know if it's available on Amazon or
Well,
I don't think it's
we
on
are not
Hulu.
sponsored at all, so reach out if you guys want to sponsor us. But Just Watch, I don't know if you have that app or not. It's my favorite app. It's the best thing. You put in all the different streaming services you have, and then you just
Uh-huh.
type in a word, and it tells you everywhere that you can find it, and
Huh.
if it's paid or if it's free. So Orphan Black. Um, on Prime Video. See, just go. Oh
Oh,
wow.
sweet.
Oh, that was weird.
So it's on Amazon
Yeah,
Prime Video.
it's on Prime Video right now, all five
Sweet.
seasons
Okay.
of
So
Orphan
I'm gonna
Black.
watch. That's gonna be, I think, the next series that I try, next kind of old series that I try to catch up with is gonna be Orphan Black. I've been wanting to watch it for a long time. So,
Yeah.
um,
I started watching Constantine. I'm one of the 7 people that has a DC Universe app and really loves it.
yeah,
So I was distraught to find out it's going to be DC Infinite starting next year, and they're going to put
yep.
everything on HBO Max because they're not taking everything over, and the interface is great. But long story short, I was what was I? Oh, I started watching, and I'm getting way off topic here, but I don't know if you ever watched the DC EU animated movies, but I was
Uh huh.
watching Justice League Dark Apocalypse War last night.
Yeah.
And Constantine's the main character tonight. I was like, you know what? I never did watch the TV show, or I watched one episode, I didn't finish it, so I started watching that last night. But so I went down a rabbit hole. I don't even know why I started going down this rabbit hole, but DC Universe app's really good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I forgot what I was gonna say about Maslany. I liked her. I'm trying to think of the movie I really liked her. And I think it was Stronger with Jake Gyllenhaal.
hmm
He played his
she's
his
really good in
dad.
Perry Mason too. If anybody hasn't watched that, have you watched any Perry Mason
I
on
watched
HBO?
the first episode and then I found it kind of slow,
It was
and
slow.
I never kept going with it.
It was very
It's
slow,
also
but
one of the reasons why I stopped watching The Outsider, even though I liked The Outsider. It was also feeling a little bit slow, so I
that's the
kind
one
of
with Jason Bateman, right? Jason Bateman. That was
yeah.
I was on board with that until like episode 5, and it just like started crawling to a halt, and I was getting bored as hell. But yeah,
Yeah,
Perry Mason has.
I think I'm in like the mood to watch stuff, right? At least right now, and it might change. Right now, I'm in the mood for stuff that is a little bit more fast paced and actiony.
Right.
I don't think I'm in the mood for like really somber, grim dramas right now. So I'm like, I don't want to watch Perry Mason or The Outsider. So I'm like trying to find other things to watch. Lovecraft Country has been like the perfect thing to watch right
Yeah.
now. It's really good in that regard. Um,
I'm
so
trying to
yeah,
avoid talking about what I almost talked about earlier, just because it was such a beautiful thing with Journey Smollett in the last episode. But I'm always the misogynist here in this group, so I'm trying not to talk about it.
Journey Smollett in the last episode. Journey Smollett in every episode is.
Yeah, but in
Uh,
one episode,
oh yeah,
yeah,
that last
she had a
episode was
scene, if you know what I mean.
freaky as hell
Yeah.
and great.
I never really got into H.P. Lovecraft, which might be weird for somebody who's been a lifelong horror fan, but I just never understood it was. But if this is my entry, then I'm all aboard.
Yeah. So yeah, Maslany's gonna play She-Hulk. I really dig that. Um, I was trying to think who's who's directing that. Um,
Oh, I mean, I have so many questions. I hope we get some kind of like mock-up soon, or something. It doesn't list any directors or anything. But like, how big is she going to be? Because in the comics, Jennifer Walters was always, she was not as, she was big and strong, but she
Cat
wasn't
Quarter.
Hulk big. She was still womanly, I guess. I don't know if they're gonna.
Uh, mm,
Well,
she's
China, like
she's
China,
really she's really muscly.
really.
She's really tall and muscly as She-Hulk.
I was thinking maybe it's the '90s version I'm thinking of, that she looks like China kind of like, she's big, she's got muscles and
Yeah, I would
definition,
say
but.
China is a pretty good model
Hmm.
model for that. China would have been a fantastic She-Hulk. Now I think about it, at least visually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
R.I.P.
it's Kat Coiro who was directing the episodes of She-Hulk.
Hmm.
Kat Coiro, she's doing that "Marry Me" film with Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson that's coming up that you're really interested in.
Hmm.
She also did she did some other stuff too, but that's what she's got coming up. So yeah, so she's doing that. And
Hmm.
yeah, Jen Walters is Bruce Banner's cousin. Mark Ruffalo is supposed to make an appearance in the show. We don't know for how long.
Hmm.
She gets, at least in the comics, she gets a portion of his powers from a blood transfusion. She's really interesting in the comics too, because in her original series,
Hmm.
she was off. She broke the fourth wall all the time. She was like one of the first characters to do that. She was just breaking the fourth wall, talking to us, the same way Deadpool does right now.
Right.
It was a really funny series. And she had another series recently where she was really focused on her law career because she's an attorney.
Yeah.
And I want to see how the show is going to balance that, because I'm hoping that they're going to keep that aspect in there. Always liked her as sort of a lawyer to the superheroes
Yeah.
kind of thing. She's really great. Um,
And the way
yeah,
things are lining up, it's going to be hard for them. It's Marvel's going to have to actively try not to reincorporate Daredevil into the MCU with the way things are going. Because you got Jennifer Walters, who's a lawyer, and you've got Spider-Man, who's going to need a lawyer, and a couple other things going up. I want to see them bring Charlie. What was his name?
oh,
Charlie
Charlie
Cox.
Cox.
Charlie Cox is Matt Murdock back in, but yeah, I'm just I really want to
You
know
keep
the.
open. You keep
Yeah, I
open.
know, right? I well, because that opens the door for Frank Castle to come back, and I'm still distraught that they finally did the Punisher right, and he only got 2 seasons. But anyway,
I never did watch that show. I didn't watch any of it.
not even season one.
I don't think I watched any of it.
Season one was really good,
I
but
don't think I watched it.
I just want to
I
see
don't
what
even know if it's
format.
still available to be watched. Like, can I still watch it? Can I watch it
That's a
anywhere?
good question.
I don't even know if it's still there.
I gotta
I don't know
imagine
if it's still,
Netflix is owns.
I don't
Maybe
know if
not.
it's I don't know if it's still on Netflix or not. I know I remember reporting a couple of years ago that they were going to be yanked eventually, but I don't know if they finally went around and did it or not.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. And the one time, no, but it's still there. Yeah, all the Marvel shows are still there.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Um, so that's weird. That's gonna be one of those things where those shows are just not available anywhere, because they're not gonna let Disney Plus show them, and that sucks.
Yeah. That's
But
frustrating.
I'm really interested to see what the format. Have they said anything about the format of the She-Hulk show? Like, is it gonna be like a Law and Order type show but with a
You don't know.
superhero, or
You
that's
don't know yet. We don't know.
um any other Marvel things you wanted to
Yeah.
go over?
They're talking about moving Black Widow
Hmm.
off the schedule, which I mean, I don't know. They're talking about moving that and Pixar's Soul. But
Hmm.
I think Black Widow is the more important one, obviously, for most people, I think.
Pixar's
Um,
Soul, starring our local film critic friend Tim Gordon.
what?
The character looks just like Tim Gordon.
Oh. um, yeah, so they're talking about moving Black Widow, which wouldn't be a total surprise. I think Tenet's box office has spooked a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
So we've seen a lot of movies go scattering since
Hmm.
then, honestly. But I don't know, because Disney is reportedly making a killing on Mulan on Disney Plus.
Well, that's gonna
Um,
it's gonna lean them towards a Disney Plus release, won't it?
$260 million is what we were hearing from analysts. Now that is just an estimation, so it's not. We don't have any official numbers. So who knows what the number actually is? Could be higher, could be lower. But yeah, who knows? I think if it is a hit, if Mulan is doing that well, then they may consider moving Black Widow to Disney Plus for a premium fee. They
Yeah, I
might.
mean, the big question there is, would Mulan have been a mega hit? Because if you make 260 off of VOD, then you have to figure out, did that many people want to see it? And if so, would they have seen it in the movie theater? Because if so, you're two people that you basically paid for watching at home. You pay for two watches, $15 a ticket. You move that up to the theater, and that's like five people. So it would have made five times. Let's just say it made three times that amount in theaters, based on standard family sizes. That'd be like six, seven, 800 million. Or did that many more people watch it because it was on VOD and didn't mind spending $30? Because that question will divide you between whether it makes sense to hold on for a box office spot and make your 800 million, or go for VOD and still make the good money and really make better money than you would have otherwise, because more people are opening up to watch it.
Another thing that needs to be considered also when it comes to VOD is that there's no revenue split. Um,
Yeah,
they don't have to split revenues with theaters, but I think it's why theaters are so upset when all these movies
I
are
would
going
say
to
so.
VOD. Huh?
I would say so. I mean, if
Yeah,
I'm
there's no revenue split.
if I'm
So
selling bicycles and
If
they
Disney
stop,
did make $260 million off Mulan, that is pretty much pure profit.
yep,
I mean, they don't have to cut it in half with theaters or anything like that. They can take it all.
yeah,
So
bandwidth they pay for maybe their server space, but that's about
yeah, I
it.
mean they
I
have to
mean,
pay for stuff like that, but I mean that's their cost. That's overhead costs basically. So I mean
yeah.
it's just
I mean,
I don't
that's a difference in the digital world, is 30 years ago, and I mean even now for movies and stuff. If you wanted somebody in Wisconsin to see your product from that came out of Florida, you had to pay somebody to get there, pay somebody to hold it, pay somebody to package it and ship it. But now you sell it right to the person in Wisconsin with nothing in the middle. So which we could go down a totally side rant about income inequality and why the executive class is getting richer and richer because of this, but we're not going to do that,
yeah.
because there's
Um,
also Miss Marvel
Miss
stuff to talk
Marvel,
about.
Miss Marvel news.
Mm-hmm.
So it was funny because last week you and I had talked about Geraldine Viswanathan
Mm-hmm.
possibly playing She-Hulk. I mean,
Right.
but Miss Marvel.
Miss
And
Marvel,
the
yeah.
very next day, I posted the story of her talking about playing Miss Marvel, and she is the top choice on people's lists to play Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, who is getting featured in the Avengers video game right now. Which I still think she would be the perfect person to play that role. But that show, which is also going to be on Disney Plus, that show now has directors, and they're not all known,
Mm-hmm.
but the ones that are worth highlighting are Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah, who are the guys who directed Bad Boys for Life this year, which is the biggest domestic hit of the year, by the way. Bad Boys for Life, still,
Mm-hmm.
for obvious reasons, because there ain't been a whole lot out, but it's the biggest movie of the year, so they can't be discounted. Um, that movie did extremely well anyway. Yeah, so they're on the list of directors for Miss Marvel, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, and also, it looks like Falcon and the Winter Soldier that's going to be moved to 2021, but WandaVision is still coming out in December. So,
If you guys weren't
however,
pissed off about
both,
coronavirus already, just
yeah,
remember
both
that
of
we
them
would have
got,
already had that.
yeah, no, we would have had it. Both of them got delayed because of the coronavirus, but clearly one moved ahead faster than the other one,
Mm-hmm.
because one is still coming out, and the other one, which was supposed to be first, isn't. Uh,
Yeah.
so, and clearly it doesn't. It's not going to cause any sort of ripple effects in the MCU by moving it. So I guess they figured they can. WandaVision, on
Yeah.
the other hand, is probably a good idea for them to get that one done because it's going to have ramifications on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah,
So
it's funny. As soon as they finally decide to really have some synchronicity between TV and movies, is when this stuff gets all screwed up. So now it really affects the timeline. They can't release anything.
yeah,
But that's the funny thing about question I started asking myself about Black Widow, is what effect does that movie have on the MCU at large? Does it have any
well,
effect? Because
that's the other thing. They're saying that this is and these things actually tie together. Black Widow and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because they're
Mm-hmm.
saying that um, Falcon and the Winter Soldier might be connected to Black Widow in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're saying that Black Widow might be moving,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden Falcon and the Winter Soldier gets pulled off the schedule, you're kind of thinking that maybe they're trying to keep those two things close together.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that could be the case. And if anything was going to connect to Black Widow, it would be that. So
Makes sense. Yeah.
so yeah.
Uh,
I have a couple other things, but we need to get the hell out of here because it's already 3 o'clock.
yeah.
Um, Tom Hardy is being rumored to be the next James Bond, and is the newest story on the site right now. Look, these rumors come around all the freaking time, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
buy this one either because the sourcing sucks.
Right.
But a lot of people are at least reporting the rumor, so I figured it was worth just putting up there just in case.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Look, Hardy would be fine for the role. I think he'd be a fine stopgap for the role. I don't feel like he'd be a permanent solution for the role. Like I feel like they'd want to go younger. But
You think he's more of a George Lazenby?
I mean, hopefully better than that.
One or
But
two movies, maybe.
but it would be a smooth transition though, because I feel like he and Daniel Craig are very similar in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I
That's the
mean, I
first
think it
thing
would
that
be
pops in my head is that by going, when you look back, it's always a question what they're gonna do with a different Bond because they've always sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's drastic. They always have some kind of different personality or look for each Bond, however slight it might be. Roger Moore was more funny than Sean Connery,
right.
and Timothy Dalton was more dark, and then Pierce Brosnan was kind of a mix of all of them together. And then Daniel Craig was a bruiser, something you'd never seen in Bond before. He wasn't the classy, suave guy. And Tom Hardy, he might. I mean, if you go back and watch Inception, you'll see what a Tom Hardy James Bond looks like, and it is not
Or
sipping
probably
martinis.
probably a better example, Tom Hardy in This Means War.
Yeah, I forgot about that movie totally. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Um,
The picture I used on the post was from This Means War, and he
oh,
looks
was
like
it?
he kind of
Yeah,
looks like he's ready for that sort of James Bond role in that picture.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
he is older, like you said. I'm still gonna hold out hope for Henry Cavill, because he can play every role as far as I'm concerned.
I would
Um,
love to see Henry Cavill play him. I would love
mhm.
it. I would love that. In fact, he would be one of my top picks to play him actually.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, The Man from Uncle is the only calling card you need for that role. That movie to this day, I'm still surprised by how much I loved it.
it's a really good. I'm still disappointed by how it didn't spawn a sequel.
Right.
Um, and that's really basically it. We didn't get a chance to talk about Lost Girls and Love Hotels with Alexandra Daddario. I really wanted to
Oh shit, I didn't.
go
Yeah,
down the Daddario rabbit hole with you, and we can just talk about how hot she is.
she's
Um,
amazing.
I know she's
We
and this
would like
movie
to.
is basically is just her fucking across Japan. So I mean, so if you want
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
I mean, really, that's what it is. It's a movie that is basically I call it sort of like Eyes Wide Shut meets Lost in
Don't
Translation.
act like you didn't look at the screen caps out there in Listenerville. We know you Googled it. We know you
Yeah, and she
saw
basically
it.
she plays kind of a drifting American expatriate who's living
Yeah.
in Japan as a translator for flight stewardesses
Hmm.
and or aspiring flight stewardesses and she gets off by going to Japanese love hotels, which are a real thing, and people just kind of go there and hook up.
Hmm.
People just go there and just have sex, and she is somebody who gets off on really rough kinky sex. That's the only thing she likes, and she finds a guy who kind of punches all the right buttons for her, and and they go at it for a lot of time, but it's not a solution to anything. Of course, as you probably already know, that's the way
Right.
these movies are. It's not a solution for anything for her. She's still drifting. She's still got problems, and he has all sorts of mysteries surrounding him too. It's
Right.
a movie that I really wanted to love. Like I said, it was in my top 3 or 4 most anticipated of the year.
Hmm.
I love Japanese set movies. They are my favorite.
Hmm.
And there's a lot about this movie that I'm going to end up liking. Like I said at the end of my review, that I'm probably going to end up liking this movie. Like
Right.
at some point, like it will grow on me and I will like it.
Hmm.
But right now, her character is just, she's just, she's so bland and she's just it's so
Yeah.
self-destructive that there's like very few redeeming qualities for her,
Right.
and his character is just he's so vague that there's nothing to really latch onto. they got some pretty decent, passion going on between them. But
She's
and the sex
she's
is pretty cool. Is pretty cool looking, I suppose. But but and look in terms
sold
of
my
like,
ticket.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a really hot movie, but it's one of those movies where people are going through sort of the ennui of daily life, and just sort of blah and kind of
Mhm.
drifting through it. Very much like how like Lost in Translation begins, where Scarlett Johansson's character just sort of like, I'm here.
Right.
It's kind of like that for the entire movie. But there's nothing that makes you feel anything for Daddario's character in her predicament.
Yeah,
It's
she
just
hasn't had her choices have not been. I mean, I love her to death, but she just hasn't had a bunch of really good choices in her films. I mean, We
no,
Summon the Darkness, which is a horror movie with
that wasn't
uh,
bad.
Johnny Knoxville. It wasn't bad, but it was obviously something only. I'm actually surprised to hear you say that. I figured it was something only a degenerate horror person like me would like. Night Hunter, which I still haven't watched. It's about Henry Cavill tracking down and killing pedophiles. So I'm all aboard on that.
I know, yeah, I remember that movie. I didn't watch it though.
Yeah, and then like the Layover the House, Baywatch. I'm trying to find the name of it. There was some
She's
movie that
super
she's
hot in
in.
Baywatch.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. There's some movie I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. It was a Netflix movie where, oh fuck, I can't remember it, and I'm not gonna be able to tell you. But she was good. It was a cute romantic comedy, and she was pretty good when we first met. That's what it was called. And that was fine. It was a cute little romantic comedy that she was in, but I think
That's
she's
when she
got
has
it.
like two friends, and she has like two friends
Yeah,
with her. I
yeah.
remember. It's
Robbie
pretty recent.
Amell is one, and
Yeah,
Adam
it's pretty.
Devine. Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
yeah. It was a fun movie. I mean, Adam Devine was surprisingly likable in it, but she
Can't
seems to
stand
be
her.
still taking me too. Seems to still be taking these adolescent like choices. Not getting out of that realm, but
Look,
we'll see.
she never quite elevated past where she
Percy
went. Like when
Jackson.
she came out of like Percy Jackson,
Yeah,
and then she never quite elevated. And then she did like what the
Texas Chainsaw
Texas
and
Chainsaw,
yeah.
and I think Texas Chainsaw set her on a path that she's never quite broken free from.
I'd say you're probably right. Baywatch almost got her in the right direction, strangely enough. Like, because you got the connections, you got the visibility, but
She doesn't have the acting chops to be an A-list star,
no, but she
to
could.
do drama. She hasn't had it. This is one of the rare movies where she is playing a seriously dramatic role.
Right.
And like most of the time she's doing genre.
Mm,
She's
yeah.
really doing drama here, and it's just really sort of a lifeless film. And I think that's the biggest problem it has.
Yeah.
But am I going to be watching it soon? Probably, yeah. I mean, I'll probably want to watch it again. I
And on
mean,
that note, we got to get out of here because it's 10
we do.
after.
We
We
really do
got
need to
things
get
to
out of
do.
here.
but
Go to the site and check out Khalil's Emmy picks. The primetime
mhm,
Emmys are tonight. Go and check those out. Check out our interviews as well that are this week. They were a lot of fun as
yeah,
well.
all of that and there and every day at punchdrunkcritics.com. Check us out every Sunday, Monday, depending on when the show gets posted on Cinema Royale. We're on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are
Yeah, and
found.
thanks for that. We've actually been doing really well numbers wise lately. So thanks a lot to the people who've been downloading and checking out the show. It's been great.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate it. We love doing it, but we love knowing that you actually hear it. So we appreciate that. Until next week, we're the Punch Drunk Critics, and we are out of here.
Later.
See you.